Look how big that shark is.
Such an awesome animal. Just amazing.
Shark, shark, shark.
Couldn't have hoped for that to go any better, really.
Probably one of the rarest sharks you will ever see in your entire life.
Whoa! There's two of them.
All right. She's literally like a jumbo jet.
You got a goblin.
We got a lot happening right now, right here.
This is exciting as hell.
Oh, that is just beautiful.
Oh my God, one just bit the other one!
Like the best thing on the planet.
Hello and welcome to the second annual Stars of Shark Week virtual event presented by the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy and Discovery Channel. I'm your host, Lisa Hughes from WBZ TV Boston, and I am so excited to be here with all of you. Tonight, we are going to be hearing from three stars of Shark Week: Vicky Vasquez, Joe Romeiro, and Dr. Greg Skomal. And we're going to hear some exciting stories about the work that they have been doing with makos, hammerheads, tiger sharks, deep sea sharks, and of course, great white sharks. This event is special to me because it spotlights one of my favorite animals. Like so many of you, I have been fascinated with sharks since I was a child. And this event tonight helps raise money to protect sharks through research and conservation or efforts that are led by the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. Throughout this event, you're going to see information on where you can donate to protect these incredible animals that we all love. I want to thank everyone who submitted questions online. And if you have a question for one of our panelists tonight, just use the chat function right there on your right. And now, on to our first shark spotlight, mako sharks.
Speed, the beauty, the acrobatics, it's nothing like any other fish does.
He's really one of the most incredible things I've ever seen.
This shark is just built like a torpedo.
With all its speed and agility and those huge eyes, a grander could be one of the world's top nocturnal hunters.
Watch out!
Look how big that shark is. Dude, that's like white shark size. Oh my God. Nice fish, bro. That shark is probably one of the rarest sharks you will ever see in your entire life. Not just because of species, but size.
They can just ram the prey, quickly tear off pieces of flesh without even really biting.
Greg, behind you! Greg! Oh my God, one just bit the other one! The sharks were all crazy. Especially you, they love you, man. I thought you were, patting me on the back. Mako kind of drilled me. I shiver with the gloves. So hard.
That was so fantastic, man.
Man, that was intense. Joe and Greg, it seems like you've had some pretty close calls with mako sharks. Joe, I want to start with you. Can you tell us why it's so important that we protect these sharks, especially in New England waters?
Well, Lisa, I mean, coupled with slow reproduction, removing an apex predator can have disastrous results. I mean, at one point in time, the great white shark was in the same position, and through conservation and awareness, they were able to help protect that animal. And I hope to see the same thing happen for mako sharks.
And what's your take, Greg?
Well, Joe's spot on right. I mean, we need our apex predators, our top predators in the world's oceans, and in particular to mako sharks. We've had some recent stock assessments that indicate that the stock is being overfished in the North Atlantic, and overfishing is occurring. So we need not only the U.S. to take steps in order to curb that, but we need all the countries surrounding it within the North Atlantic that are harvesting mako sharks to curb the amount they're taking. So We need a concerted international effort to save this species.
We have our first fan question tonight. And Joe, this one is for you. It comes from Abner, who wants to know, do you have any tips for how to start a career as a shark cinematographer?
I would find any way to immerse yourself in the field. I was always into cameras as a kid, and I started off diving and eventually took my camera out with me and was able to make like a whole career out of it. I mean, make as many connections as possible, take every opportunity, and really you only fail if you like quit doing it. So just don't stop.
So the key is really just to be tenacious and take every opportunity you can.
Exactly.
Here's a question for all of you, and this comes from Samantha. She wants to know, what was the most challenging or frightening experience that you had working with sharks, and did it change the way that you work with them? And Vicky, I'm going to start with you.
Cool. Most of my answers tend to be deep sea sharks, but for this one, it's actually a white shark.
Oh.
I was in South Africa, Mossel Bay, doing an internship. It was amazing. And it's, looking back on it now, kind of funny, but you know, you're chumming the waters, and the one thing you don't want to happen is somebody fell in the water. So it was a really good lesson on safety, but at the same time, a really good reminder that, you know, the sharks really want one thing, and it's not humans. The worst thing that happened to that person was just being very embarrassed that they had fallen in the water, and the splash actually scared the shark away.
Thank goodness. that could have gone badly. Thank goodness it didn't. Joe, how about for you? The scariest aspect of working with sharks, and did that change how you work with them?
I mean, you could see from the last clip, I mean, most of the scary experiences I've ever had have just been like watching others, you know? Yeah. I feel like the more that I work with these animals, the more that I'm able to like predict them a little bit better, you know, not fully, but at the same time, you can't really predict people, you know, and that's,
isn't that true?
Yeah, I know. So, you know, it's just one of those things that always just seem to stress me out. Is just watching others kind of like swim around with them and interact with them. Sometimes it's like, it's more than like self-peril at the time, but that's like usually the most like excitement I get out of it. And I've definitely had my handful of that.
Yes, and we have the video to show for it, which is amazing. Greg, we often see video of you on the front of a boat, and I seem to remember there was a shark that jumped out of the water, but there may have been other experiences that were more terrifying. I'm curious.
I think watching Joe Romeiro is terrifying, but he scares me with all the stuff he's doing. But yeah, Lisa, once I had a white shark jump out of the water and try to bite me, but that was terrifying, but it was only a couple seconds long. For me, it was actually about 20 years ago, and it was one of the first films I ever did for Shark Week. And I was up in the Arctic Circle diving under 6 feet of solid ice in about 28 degrees of water with Greenland sharks. And my job was to try to get that shark in a good position so we could tag it. But this 400-pound Greenland shark decided it wanted to go to the bottom, which was about 400 feet deep. So I decided that I'd try to hold the shark there, which was a huge mistake. So being dragged down in ice cold water to about 50 feet deep with a Greenland shark was really one of the most uncomfortable experiences of my life. And it's trained me not to go do something like that ever again.
Yes, well, sharks are not meant to be held, apparently not in Greenland and under 6 feet of ice, and not by you. Here's another question for all of you. I want to go around the room. This time, Greg, I want to start with you. Adam wants to know who or what inspired your passion for sharks and conservation?
Well, you know, like most human beings, as a kid, I loved, you know, sharks and dinosaurs, and I just never grew out of the sharks part. You know, I've always been fascinated by them since I was a child. And then, of course, like many people in my field, the movie Jaws came around. And Jaws, for me, was really inspiring. And in particular, Matt Hooper, the scientist in Jaws. I thought he had the most amazing job. And I decided at that age, which was in my early teens, so I decided I wanted to be a Matt Hooper. And I think I've been pretty lucky, and you work hard and you get there.
And you're no doubt inspiring somebody else who wants to be the next Greg Skomal. How about you, Vicky? What sparked your interest and passion for sharks and for conservation?
Before I had a chance to see them in person, it was actually Shark Week. Watching that show, I'd get really excited and I'd actually take notes because I wanted to, every once in a while they use these words and I'm just like, what is an ampullated Lorenzini? And then I'd go back and look into it. And then as I learned more and I found out just how many sharks there are and how complicated everything is about their behavior, I just got super excited and just wanted to know everything.
How about you, Joe?
Well, when I was a little kid, I just really couldn't speak English. So a lot of the stuff that I connected with was like a lot like Greg, like I connected to monster films and I connected to natural history movies and like things like that. And those people were like my heroes as a kid. It's like the people who initially just taught me how to speak English. So that really drew me in there.
Excellent. Well, we talked about how sharks were a fascination for us when we were kids. And the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy hosts a range of activities, including summer programs that are just for kids.
Below the ocean's surface live some of the rarest and strangest marine animals on Earth.
There's so many weird, alien, bizarre sharks down there.
And we're discovering new ones all the time.
We got a goblin shark!
Goblin shark. Instead of the shark moving out, the jaw comes out.
This is a frill shark. This is a true alien shark.
What's alien about the frill shark is just how ancient it looks. It's not similar to anything in our world.
The fact that we put a stat tag on it was awesome because we're going to go from knowing nothing about megamouths to knowing a whole ton about megamouths.
In terms of light sensitivity, a deep sea shark's eyes are better than the best camera out there. Animals like the ghost shark have been able to persist and survive for hundreds of millions of years. People don't realize it, but we're actually living in the renaissance of shark exploration.
We know more about outer space than we do the bottom of the ocean.
The only way for us to learn more is to plunge into the depths and find them.
And there is so much there. Those are some strange and very cool sharks. And Vicky, I love the excitement that we see and hear in that video. What is it like to see an alien shark up close?
It's completely surreal. I mean, you can read about them, you can do your homework, and you just see these things and it's like the moment and my brain don't totally catch up. One of my favorite experiences, which they have on camera, is seeing that goblin shark jut out its mouth. I mean, it's so quick. And seeing the frilled sharks is, it looks like a dinosaur. And they all move so slow because they're from the deep sea. So for a second, you think it's fake, and then boom, there go the jaws.
Yeah, I mean, they're all incredible and so different looking. Stephanie has a question for all of the panelists. Are there career paths available for someone who is passionate about shark conservation but isn't a scientist? And Greg, I'll start with you.
Well, I think, yes, there's a lot of careers out there, and I think it's important to and I think the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy is a great example of that. You've got an entire educational department there. We're doing, they're doing outreach and reaching out to everybody with regard to what sharks are doing around Cape Cod, white sharks in general. My team on the boat, I call it my team, it is our team. It is absolutely amazing. I've got somebody driving a boat, I've got someone flying a plane. Everything that we do involves folks who are passionate about sharks and conservation, but not necessarily scientists.
Joe, how about for you? Because you're focusing on the visuals and sort of a different aspect of capturing the behavior of these creatures. Is there a way that someone who isn't a scientist could somehow get involved in that end?
I mean, like into cinematography, or to be like
sure, or to in any way that might assist you. Like you've got that visual eye, and you have an understanding of sort of what it takes to put these incredible videos together. I would imagine you have a lot of people who are artists.
I mean, yeah, we see a lot of people that are artists, but I mean, a lot of people that get involved with sharks are just people that can just, that people that don't involve their entire lives into it, but they also just like volunteer, do like for nonprofits like the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. They don't consume shark products and they like stay informed, into like conservation issues and legislation around them and stuff. Like just having a little bit of an active role like can help a lot with like shark awareness and conservation of them. And that just helps our jobs be a lot easier because there's more sharks around.
Right. And Vicky, how about you in your work? Do you find that you're often working with people who are not necessarily scientists?
Absolutely. I mean, before I got into the science, I was spending like 10 years in just education and outreach. And a lot of times that is some of the most important work. I think as we're, moving forward in time and just kind of seeing what science and science communication can be, we're realizing how important science communication is. And the other thing that I wanted to stress with that is sure, you can look for those jobs, but I know so many people who are just so passionate that they do this stuff on the side. I know a firefighter who spends all his free time helping out white sharks on the West Coast, and he actually was co-author on a scientific paper. So there's always different options. There's just not one single path anymore.
Your passion leads you. Mm-hmm. Vicky, this is a question for you from Maggie, who wants to know, what was your most exciting discovery or encounter?
The Ninja Lantern shark. So, as famous as like a white shark is or a hammerhead, I couldn't believe that there were like glowing sharks and just not a lot of people knew about them. And then on top of that this was really the hotspot for discoveries. So I got to discover a brand new shark species, and I wanted it to get attention. And I honestly didn't think this was going to work. But I got my little cousins involved. At the time, they were between 8 and 12 years old. And the common name they came up with was Ninja. And it just gave it so much attention. And I just really appreciated that. It's just another shout out to the deep sea, which is great.
Oh, and I can just imagine what it was like to see it. It's thrilling. This is a question that plays right off that. It came to us from the chat. It's from Noah. It's for all of you. And Vicky, I'm going to ask, because you mentioned the Ninja Lantern shark. What's the rarest shark you've seen in person? Was that it? And if that was it, what was the next rarest?
That wasn't it. So it's crazy because the Ninja Lantern shark, that discovery was based on just 8 specimens. But it was actually alien sharks, stranger fins, when we were in Japan, that I had this amazing experience where we caught this deep sea cat shark. And it was the first time that the other professor, Dr. Nakaya, had ever seen it. And he was the one that had discovered it. So he had never ever seen it alive before. So just to see, how far in his career he was, and to have that moment was just amazing to be a part of. Incredible. So yeah, deep sea cat sharks.
Cool. Joe, how about you?
I think like Greg and Vicky are going to have me beat on this one. Like, you can't really go against that one. Like,
it's not a competition. We get to pick your brains on all of these. So we're all loving these descriptions.
I mean, I felt like I was pretty happy to see like living porbeagles, like that was cool. I mean, a lot of the little small species you see diving, like Vicky was saying, it's just like, usually those are the ones that feel a lot like really special to me, because it's just like one of those things that you just see in a fleeting glimpse, but that's probably up there for me. Now let's see if like Greg's going to smush mine too.
Okay, are you smushing?
No way. No way. Vicky wins hands down. I mean, I'm like Joe, I work with a lot of species that live in the surface waters and are frequently encountered by fisheries. I have seen a lot of sharks in museums in jars, and that's nothing. But I guess I would fall back on the Greenland shark. That was an amazing experience. And, you know, back then it was really unusual to see that species, particularly alive, and to be able to track its movements. But, you know, nothing as impressive as what Vicky's done.
Well, they're all really incredible, but I feel like you all provided visuals that give us great illustrations in our head, and also super educational. The Atlantic White Shark Conservancy is on a mission to connect STEM-based education initiatives dedicated to connecting girls with female scientists like Vicky all over the world, sharing knowledge and inspiring shark and ocean conservation. Their Gills Club and Gills Talk podcast programs are designed to achieve these goals. Let's take a look.
When I was in Bimini doing my PhD research, we were like, what if we put a little shark in a pen with a big shark, and you just like drew it on a napkin, and then actually went out and built it and did it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it worked exactly like we thought it would. So we published it.
That's a big hammerhead, a big shark.
It's starting to feel a little more dangerous now, my friend.
Everyone watch yourself.
Coming in hot.
They have the ability to scour this larger area with this huge cephalofoil that broadens out their array of ampullae lorenzini.
That to me is amazing.
It's like an underwater metal detector. They're completely surrounded by sharks right now. This is absolutely insane.
Hammerhead coming through.
If you asked pretty much every diver in the world, what is the shark that you most want to see, everyone would have the great hammerhead in there.
It is very evolved. It is a very smart shark.
Let's go track this shark.
They really do look like underwater metal detectors. They are so cool. Vicky, can you tell us about the citizen science project that you're doing with hammerheads on the West Coast?
Yeah, one thing that I've been learning more and more about is how important everybody is toward shark science. And it was actually fishermen from San Diego, which is where I'm originally from, who were telling me that, like, oh, the yellowfin tuna fishing is going off. All we do is look for the hammerheads. And I was like, wait, what? And there were so many hammerheads that they were just using them as clues for fishing spots. I was so amazed at this because hammerheads are in San Diego and Southern California, but just not to that frequency. And I wanted to find out, was this a blip, or is this, you know, maybe a changing new thing that we're going to see hammerheads more often in northern parts of the range. So if anybody sees one, even if you're like, oh, you know, it was 2 years ago, if you have a photo of a hammerhead shark, if you know where you found it, any of that information is hugely helpful. We have an online survey that you can find. It's just, you know, Southern Hammerheads Public Survey. It's on Jotform. Or, you know, I'm on social media. If you just let me know on those different outlets, that's great too. I've actually gotten probably about half of that data just from Facebook alone, which is really crazy.
Well, it's also great because it involves people who are on the water in conservation efforts that they might not have considered before, but that they can actually play a role in, which is fantastic.
Exactly.
Greg, question for you. John wants to know, do you prepare differently when you are tagging a hammerhead as opposed to tagging a great white shark?
Yeah, John, absolutely. You know, one thing that we've done over the years, and Vicky mentioned this, is we've learned a lot from working with fishermen. And our approach as scientists is to try not in any way to modify the behavior of the animals that we're studying. So we try to use the least invasive techniques. With white sharks, we use a tagging approach, just tagging free-swimming fish from the pulpit of the boat. With hammerheads, that's not necessarily possible. So we have to handle them to some extent. So we may use fishing techniques or chumming techniques to draw them to the boat. So it really is species specific, you know, and our approach is, again, try not to modify the behavior because that's exactly what we're studying.
The next question comes from Adam, and it's for all of you. What would a perfect day in the field consist of? Joe, you want to take that one first?
I mean, I guess it would just start off as just being sharks. Like, if we can just get them at first, like, that's really just it. Like, the big payoff is that you actually see them. And, you know, the more that you put in here, the more that you know that it's like, it's a hard thing to put in. I mean, Greg and Vicky can definitely attest to it. It's like you're just constantly looking for this one creature, and the moments that you have with it, you feel like that's the moment, that's rewarded. Everybody you're with and everything else is great. But at that one thing, it's just like, without the sharks, we all don't have things to do.
So to have them right off the bat is ideal.
For sure.
Definitely. Vicky, how about you?
Same as Joe. Well, the only thing I'll say a little different is I hate being cold. So especially during the filming of Japan, that was really hard for me, except when we were seeing the sharks. I will hang out for 2 hours in the rain, freezing, you know, and if there are sharks there, I don't care. I will hang out for 12 hours like that. They just really energize me.
Preferably you're seeing them when it's warmer.
Yes.
Yeah. How about you, Greg? Perfect day.
Well, you know, actually, preparation for that day starts sometimes months or years before, right? Because you've got to raise the money to do the research. And then assuming that all comes together, you get all your equipment, you know, then you pick your day and you hope your weather pans out. And then like Joe and Vicky said, you got to hope for sharks. You know, you turn on a Discovery show and it looks like, oh, the sharks are there every time you go out.
Right.
That's not necessarily the case. Okay. You may wait for days or even weeks to find sharks. And once you find them, let's say you put a sophisticated tag that costs $1 zillion on it, and then you got to hope it works, right? So hope the technology that you're using to study the behavior of the shark actually works. And so all that needs to happen, and that would be my perfect day.
Well, Vicky, Jessica and Brenna have a question for you, and they're similar questions, so we have combined them. They want to know what advice you would give to someone who wants to study marine biology and make a career out of it, and how to stay motivated in what is traditionally a male-dominated field.
Ooh, okay. The first answer is get out there and volunteer and see, you know, to what degree is your love of sharks. Like I said before, I know so many people that have different careers and are making significant contributions to shark science in other ways. So you don't just have to be a shark scientist. And this is also great as a reminder, because if you feel like you're too old to get into shark science, that's not true. You can do it at any point. And same with being too young. The feeling like it's a male-dominated field, you know, I've had both situations where like it feels very like bro-y, and I'm from San Diego, live right by San Diego State, so I can actually handle bro-y, it's fine. But most of the time, I don't even notice that, and so it's really wonderful when you can be with a group of people that really care about the science itself. However, it's also why it's so great that the Gills Club exists. Every time I see somebody, I love to tell them about it. It's the best way to get that feeling that you might want of connecting with, you know, someone that might be able to answer those questions of how you might feel in a male-dominated field, or maybe help you tackle a specific problem that you're dealing with. So, you know, this last filming that I did to Cocos Island for Shark Week, you know, I found out that the cameraman Andy Brande Casagrande and then Dr. Craig O'Connell both had daughters. So like the first thing I told them was like, you've got to check out the Gills Club. So yeah, I kind of made it a long answer, but really it's really short. Gills Club.
Very helpful. And the Gills Talk podcast is also fantastic for people who want that audio, but that's a fantastic answer. Christy has a question for all of you. And here's the question. What advancement in technology has been most beneficial in furthering your research? And what do you wish you could do for your research that you aren't able to do yet? And Greg, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Well, my career really started examining dead fish. I spent a lot of time as a traditional, classically trained fisheries biologist studying natural history by cutting sharks up. And that has shifted dramatically to studying live fish because the technology has exploded. The gadgets that we're able to fasten to these sharks didn't exist when I was in college. So that has really exploded science in terms of studying the ecology of these animals, how they interact with their three-dimensional space in which they live. And so that's been amazing. Now, that technology is only going to get better. And so I don't know if I'll be alive, but at the time when it happens, but if I could have a tag that could track a shark for a full year and send back imagery and track its three-dimensional movements, really high-resolution data, that would be my wish list. But it doesn't exist yet.
Oh, hopefully someday, though. That is fantastic. Vicky, how about you? What's been the most beneficial technology for your research?
Just the expansion of tools to get to the deep sea. The ability to use a remote operated vehicle or a deep sea submersible, whichever one you're using, they have cameras attached to them. And my lab, the Pacific Shark Research Center, has actually been able to find a species of ghost shark that was described on one side of the Pacific Ocean. And thanks to that deep sea technology, they got video of it off of California. So it was a really special moment and reminder of, how important that stuff is. And I wish that that technology can just keep growing and become more affordable, because I would love to get video of a ninja lantern shark.
Yes.
Haven't done that yet.
And we all want to see that video so badly. Joe, how about you? What's been the biggest technological breakthrough that has benefited your work?
I think we all agree here on, that it's definitely like the advancement of camera technology, being able to put them on sharks' backs and fin cams and brubs and, like cameras that can last for really long periods of time. Like it gives us like a look into like behind the scenes of the sharks' lives. So it's definitely a big part of it, because witnessing it is really a lot of it.
And it's such an important educational tool as well. If you're heading to McMillan Pier in Provincetown this summer, you are in for an incredible treat. The Atlantic White Shark Conservancy has a new outpost to offer shark merchandise and ecotourism trips. And when they open their doors to the new Shark Center in May, you're going to be greeted by their new mascot.
They're truly beautiful animals. There's this contained power and elegance.
Ready for this, Neil?
Born ready. It's an unbelievable display of predatory action right now.
These animals evolved to eat turtles. If you look at the tooth of a tiger shark, it's like a mini can opener.
This is so exciting.
This could be the first time any of this has been documented.
She was full of well-developed pups. I've never seen this before.
The teeth are so cool.
Behind you, Neil, behind you.
When they come in straight towards you, they're asserting themselves. Eye contact is actually really important.
Okay.
These are really visual predators.
They're absolutely insane down there.
Tiger sharks here, they'll hang back and they're quite cautious.
Sometimes putting a camera in certain places can capture stuff that you can't.
We now know that tiger sharks go deeper than they ever thought before.
There's so much more to know.
Man, those are some big sharks. Joe, curious, what kind of data can we get back from things like the fin cams and the other remote cameras?
Well, I mean, those kind of cameras give us an insight, like we said before, to behind the scenes of like sharks' lives. But now they're able to put so much different technology into those cameras. You're able to like measure temperature, light, you know, the orientation of like everything, the acceleration. I mean, it's really gotten a lot more complicated than what you would just think of as just being a simple camera on a shark's back. But I mean, in Return to Shark Vortex, our show that we have with Greg and the Conservancy and stuff, we actually use a fin cam in there, and I don't want to give anything away, so you'll just have to watch it Discovery Plus. But but at the same time, we do utilize that technology, and what we got out of it is just like, you know, amazing. That's one of those things that it's just the beginning of it. I think we're starting to see like some really exciting stuff happening.
That was an exceptional tease, by the way. That was very, very good. We're all going to be watching anyway, but now we are very excited. I want to stay on topic because Bob had a question that I actually had as well, which is, Joe, what is the most intricate camera rig that you have developed to capture an image of a shark?
I mean, this one's a really good one because we like are always like fiddling around and like doing stuff. I'm actually 3D printing stuff in the other room right now for like a rig, but I mean, we have bruvs that can do really deep drops that are very complicated. Fin cams in the beginning, there wasn't a lot of really people into them. So we really had to, like, Greg can attest to this, we had to like get up very creative with them. And a lot of it was just like engineering the stuff, but like figuring out floats and, you know, like what depth they can go to, and then contacting people that had all these kind of like little hard to find materials have just been like, it's a constant struggle. So I don't know if there's one that's like the most complex, but I would say that like fin cams definitely have been like a real, you know, like learning curve with those.
And it's fascinating. I mean, I imagine it almost is sort of entrepreneurial, the way that you're putting them together and figuring out how they're going to work to achieve what it is you're trying to get. Andrew has a question for all of you. And it's a great one because I think a lot of us want to play a role in this, but what are some of the best ways that we can help sharks in the wild? Oh, and how about Vicky? Why don't you start?
I would go back to the citizen science. I think that is something that people can hugely support. That's one way to really hugely support the research that is going on and trying to move forward. But I get that not everybody lives by the water or is there very often. And so the best way that you can help is by supporting all the people that are already doing work. If you're on social media, make sure that you are following people or telling other people to follow those people, or sharing the different campaigns that you see. I will caution though that if you see like something that you're supposed to sign, find out, you know, what's going on there. Like, is this list that I'm signing really supporting something? And again, I think that's where moving forward with the outreach and the science and sharing stuff will really help you avoid some random campaign that doesn't really help.
Yeah, that's a good point. You may want to help, but you just want to make sure you know what you're signing on those. Joe, how about you? What are some of the ways that you can think of that people who want to help sharks can do it with the choices that they make?
I mean, not consuming shark products is a big one. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that are out there that are omega-3 and other things that can, like shark liver oil and things like that, can be simply avoided. And then, you know, being very aware of like conservation, what's going on with the sharks. I mean, this is something that Shark Week does really well. And now that we have like social media and a lot of that stuff, like we have groups like the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy that are like great groups doing a lot of stuff that's like non-invasive, very like public oriented research that's just like designed to get to people, not just like put in a science book, but really like get the public to really understand what's going on out there. So, you know, I think those are really important things to do. Just even getting involved in like that is just it's a good way to keep like it going. It just being highly like, you know, aware and active.
Greg, you want to add to that?
Well, I think Vicky and Joe nailed it. Groups like the Conservancy and others have really changed the way people are thinking about sharks. And I think we need to continue that momentum. We need to dispel some of these myths that have, people afraid to go in the water, for example. That sharks eat people. I mean, we need to keep pushing and pushing. And I think folks need to, educate themselves and educate others about, shark fisheries, commercial, recreational, sustainability, those concepts, and who the players are in the whole fisheries process. But yeah, it just builds on what these other guys are saying, it's important.
This next question is for Vicky. Rachel asks, what advice do you have for girls who want to get into STEM fields?
Gills Club, again, is a really good answer. And of course, if you're not specifically into shark science, if you somehow want to feel a little bit more supported, the great thing is that nowadays there are more and more outreach organizations that are really trying to reach out to you. And so that would be a really great way. And then the other one is volunteering. So if you have an aquarium nearby or anything of that nature, it's a really good chance to get that experience. And again, you don't just have to be into marine biology. It's just my head's there. But, whatever you're interested in. And then, of course, you may not always be able to get that hands-on experience. So, doing what you can online to help amplify these different groups will be a real great way for you to really, flex your STEM muscles.
Yeah, that's where social media can be really helpful in getting the word out. This is a question for all of you from the chat, which is, what is one thing that you wish people knew about sharks? Joe?
I guess the biggest one for me is always like how hard it is to get close to sharks, that like sharks are really so terrified of you, and the fear factor is like usually 100-time fold of like, no matter how afraid of a shark you are, trust me, they're a lot more afraid of you, So I think that's probably the biggest one for me.
That's a good one. Vicky?
I know a lot of people know about deep sea sharks, but I really don't think enough people do. So I just wish that more people would use their opportunities where they hear about a white shark or a hammerhead or a tiger shark and take those opportunities to find out about what else is in the water. Because the truth is, saying a shark is like as vague as talking about a mammal. So a human is nothing like a mouse, and you might have a dog as a pet, but you're surely not going to have a lion. And so just knowing that sharks have that same complexity is what I wish more people knew.
Excellent. How about you, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, building on what these guys are saying, absolutely an understanding of the natural history of these animals, and the fact that they have evolved in the ocean to do what they do in terms of predators. They're not evolved to eat people, and just reiterating what I said earlier, and so realize that they're not mean, they're not nasty, they're not being vindictive. They are simply doing what they have evolved to do.
Joe, this is a question for you from Diane. Do you find a difference diving with tiger sharks in the Bahamas versus other places in the world?
Well, I guess like here, Diana, like here in New England, definitely. It's a difference between shorts or like thermal jacket. It's it's a real big thing in the Bahamas that we have great weather there, and it makes it a pleasure to just do any kind of diving there. So it just seems like, you're like way more comfortable when you're in that like human temperature zone than when we're like freezing cold in some place. I mean, everybody here, I don't think, likes cold water.
When you're in the Bahamas, that's when we're all living vicariously through you, Joe. And Joe, I know you have some important information to share with us, yes?
Oh yeah, thanks, Lisa. And thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm thrilled to be here supporting the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy and being able to share my love of sharks with all of you. Sharks, especially the great white shark, are often misunderstood, and the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy is working to change that by investing in research and education. They can't do all this work without you. And it's through your donations that the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy can plan research-led trips by Dr. Greg Skomal. This research furthers our knowledge about great white sharks in our own backyard and educates the public, improves public safety, and inspires conservation across generations. You can contribute today by texting to give to the number on your screen or by donating through the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy's events page. You can also access our silent auction on the events page, and winners will be announced on July 22nd. Thanks again to Discovery Channel and the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy for hosting this event. And now it's time for some great white sharks.
We encountered some of the biggest great whites I've ever seen.
Anytime you got white sharks and people, it always gets interesting.
Get back to the cage! Get back to the cage!
I've seen 3 sharks.
These animals are really intelligent. They can learn a new behavior.
Come on, shark.
For 20 years, Edgewater has been a dominant predator in these waters.
Whoa! We flew like 10 feet out the water.
You can see the power of these animals when they get hold of something.
Whoa! Whoa! Yeah, I hear him. Still there, mate. Yeah.
I thought literally they were trying to get into the cage.
Here, he's coming right here. He's coming right here. He's coming at us. Look at this. Look at it. That looks like a big white shark. That looks like a white shark. Dead ahead. Come on, up, 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 up.
Yeah!
That's a big shark.
This could be the last stand for the great white shark.
We want to keep them on the earth. These are really, really important animals.
What the? It's huge!
Oh, my heart just races watching that video. It is amazing. I was really lucky to have a chance to see some of those great white sharks here in New England on a trip with Greg and the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. And I can tell you, as amazing as it is to see them on video and in Shark Week, they are even more beautiful and incredible in person. Greg, I want you to tell us a little bit about the work you're doing with great whites this year. And this is very exciting for a news person. We have an exclusive, some breaking news right now about a development that just happened today.
Yeah, we had a almost one of those perfect days we talked about earlier. And again, with the support of the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, we tagged our first white shark off Cape Cod today about 6 hours ago. And that really kicks off the season. And it was a really, really cool 12-foot male shark. So I'm super excited about that. And, you know, by applying these tags, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a really, really good understanding of the behavior of these sharks in shallow water. We're really focusing on the predatory behavior. How do these animals, where do these animals attack and kill their natural prey, which is seals? And what we're hoping to do is get a better understanding of patterns so that we can forecast the presence of these animals, not only because we're super interested in white sharks around Cape Cod, but because we want to, you know, enhance public safety. And we think by better understanding this predator-prey relationship around the Cape, we'll be able to enhance public safety.
Right, because we only have more people heading to those beaches. I mean, we're seeing it, especially this year. They're all crowded. It's been hot. And that's a question that people have. And so this is just critically important research. We have a question from Diane for all of you. This is a fan question. And I'm going to start with Vicky on this one. What brings you the most joy in your job?
I think the idea of playing with sharks just immediately makes me really happy. But to know that there is a purpose behind it and that it is, you know, making significant contributions to conservation or things about the science we didn't know is really what makes me joyful. It is just that, you know, I've done something that helps.
How about you, Joe?
Yeah, I think she really got it with that one, because it's like, it really feels like, you know, make it like contributing in any way. Like for me as a filmmaker, like, you know, taking pretty pictures of sharks is great, but you capture a lot of stuff that people like you start to like see behaviors and things, like really just witnessing it. So, I mean, for me, it's like the contribution it is to be able to play a part in this world that I like cared about so much when I was like a kid and now, you know?
Yeah, and the visuals change perceptions that people have, and they debunk myths over time. Greg, how about for you? What is your greatest joy in the job?
Yeah, I bet most people would guess that it's being on the water, being with the sharks, and I do find immense gratification with that. But when we're able to produce information that ultimately leads to conservation and sustainability, that's even more rewarding because that has long-term rewards for everybody, and the sharks in particular.
Yes.
Here.
And Greg, Kim wants to know exactly how often you're going out on the water to track and tag sharks. And where do you find the most shark activity? Is it off Chatham?
Well, we find the most shark activity all along the outer Cape. You know, we are monitoring the entire coastline of Massachusetts, and we find that white sharks are moving all around Massachusetts. The bulk of them are spending most of their time along the outer Cape, the eastern facing beaches, but they'll also go up into the Gulf of Maine and as far north as Canadian waters. So, and we are trying to get out there usually 2-3 times a week. You know, all that is really driven by the weather in addition to our research objectives.
And as we're talking right now, there is thunder just booming all around me here. So it's nice to be in this protected enclave talking about sharks. Greg, we have another question. This one comes from Kelly, who wants to know, she grew up on Cape Cod. She wants to know, what is the largest great white that the folks at the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy have tagged in the waters around the Cape?
Well, actually, the biggest white shark we've tagged is Curly. And what's really cool about Curly's about 18 feet long. Curly was feeding on a dead whale, scavenging a whale carcass about 15 miles east of Cape Cod when we tagged her. And what's great is if you go to the Conservancy Shark Center, there's a replica of Curly hanging in the ceiling. And it is just an amazing display.
I have seen that and didn't realize it was Curly. That's really cool. Ashley,
can you tell us why it's named Curly?
Curly has a dorsal fin that with a slight little curl at the tip. That's it. Just a little curl at the tip.
So not a Three Stooges knot. It was
no.
feature. Ashley has a question that we'd love to have all of you answer, and this can apply to any species of shark. What is a question on white shark biology or ecology that you still don't have an answer to? So, Greg, that's for you. But either of you can pick a shark. Or what hurdles are preventing researchers from finding answers?
Well, I think in terms of population monitoring, it's really critically important to have an excellent understanding of the reproductive biology of these species. And we just don't have a really firm handle on that for most shark species. Yes, in particular, the white shark, but many, many other shark species. Really basic questions like how many young do they have? You know, where do they mate? How long is the gestation period? Where do they give birth to their young? Those are really big questions for a lot of shark species, and we really need answers to them in order to adequately manage populations.
One of the lingering mysteries, really, with sharks. Yeah. How about you, Joe? What's a question about a shark species that you just can't answer yet?
Well, I guess there's that's a huge one, like saying like, what's the questions we can't answer, because there's so many different,
right?
And they seem to go across like all different species. But I guess the biggest hurdle is time. We definitely don't like have a lot of it when we're with them. So like finding them, locating them, and then you have all this excitement, and then you look back at it and you go, that was about a 2-hour window into a much bigger life cycle that's going in there, and looking more into the, you know, the behaviors of them. And like Greg said, the reproduction and the areas that takes place is like super important into being able to better understand them, but also make that like conserve them better, you know, to help better protect them with that same information.
Right. And Vicky, I would imagine with the sharks that you're studying, you know, they're so unusual. So few people, relatively speaking, have seen them that you would get a lot of questions. But what is a question that is coming up now that is a mystery for you?
This actually goes back to the alien sharks episode again. Based on what we were seeing, we started to get the idea that maybe this could be some sort of nursery ground for I was going to say for alien sharks, but I guess that's kind of true. So for the goblin sharks, but then it looked like it might also be a mating ground for the frilled sharks. You know, it was nothing that we were planning to look at. And yeah, we ended up with a lot more questions than answers from that expedition. So Tokyo Bay could be really, really important for a lot of deep sea sharks.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Greg, we have another question from Adam, and he lives on Cape Cod. He's a huge Shark Week and shark fan. I know you touched on this a little bit already, but in the years of your research on the Cape, you know, we obviously need a balance of vacationers and a healthy ecosystem. In your estimation, what is the best way for vacationers, seals, sharks to coexist and share the waters there?
Well, I think that the approach that the towns are taking on Cape Cod is the right approach in terms of outreach and education with the help of the Conservancy, right? So you have to understand you've got this natural predator-prey relationship, which existed hundreds of years ago and has now come back, you know? And as a result, we've got white sharks hunting seals in shallow water where people are also recreating. And that creates this potential conflict. So the realization that this is a natural event happening will lead you to make some decisions in terms of what you want to do relative to your activities in that water. So we're trying to produce information through our research that'll help you make those decisions. We're not there yet, but we're beginning to really tease out some interesting findings that we're going to share with all the towns and the folks in the coming months.
That's a story I look forward to sharing. Excellent. Here's another question from the team at Discovery. It is for all of you. And I'm going to start with Vicky. If you could relive any moment in your career, what would it be?
I'm going to close my eyes as I relive it and tell you, and it's the goblin shark. It was so cool watching its jaws jut out of its mouth. And it's just, you know, you can watch the videos, you can know that they do that, but you don't know that's going to actually happen at the time. For the show that I got to be a part of this year, which is on Discovery Plus, airs on Saturday, there's a lot of great moments there too, but I'm guessing I can't tell you, so you'll just have to watch it.
I love that. Excellent. Greg, how about you? If you could relive a moment in your career, what would it be?
Oh, that's really tough because, you know, I focus a lot on white sharks now, but I still do a lot of work in a lot of other cool places like the Bahamas. I guess one of my favorite moments was tagging a shark by the name of Deep Blue, which Mauricio Hoyos and I encountered back in 2013 for the first time. Massive 20-foot plus white shark female. And, you know, left to me, I'd like to see her one more time.
Maybe you will. Well, that would be amazing. Joe, how about you? What's a moment that you would relive in your career if you could?
I've like sat here and thought about it while you guys are like,
not easy.
And I
the wheel's turning. It isn't easy, I'm sure.
You didn't specify on like how long that moment could be. Can I pick like full years or like sections?
I'm going to say yes. I mean, we don't have time to maybe for you to describe the whole year, but yes.
No, I mean, I think like one of my fondest memories, I guess, and I'll just kind of like reflect one on like Greg that I had back in the day. It was like when this whole thing like was starting off and like Greg showed me my first New England white shark. We were like on like, it was like a different boat. And we were like, I was like sleeping in the engine room and all this stuff. We didn't know if we were going to see all that stuff. And I remember Greg looking at me and saying like, you know, in maybe like 10 years from now, we'll probably have like a white shark population here, Joe. And it was like, he predicted, so like, be careful what you wish for. You know, like it's one of those things that's like one of the best memories I have of just like the shark stuff and everything else. And it was like way back then, you know, but at the same time, it's like a fond one.
Well, and how long ago was that, roughly?
Oh, God, I don't know, Greg. You would know. It's like back in the
about
day.
10 years ago.
Yeah, at least. No, it's more than 10 years ago now, Greg. I think I do the same thing. I go back and I go, oh, it's 10 years. And then, you know, like 15 have gone by. So it's more like around the 15-year mark, I think.
But the bottom line is that you could see it as a possibility and you were there for the moment that he said it. And now we're living in this era where we're studying white sharks off Cape Cod all the time. And it's magnificent.
It was amazing to watch him like predict that. And I think that has always stuck in my memory. I was like, God, he was right. You know, like he was right. Like this definitely picked up. You know,
it was a good guess, Joe.
Well, it was so good that, 15 years later, it still makes an impression. We have one last question for all of you from the chat, and it's a great one. What is something you want to learn from each other? So, Joe, I'll start with you on this one.
What we want to learn from each other. I have like so many questions for Vicky. You know, like Greg and I live near each other. We like have a relationship and see each other every so often. But Vicky, you got like all these cool like goblin shark stories and everything else. I almost had an opportunity to see one, but I never have. And I'm like so envious about that. I really would like to know more about all the deep sea stuff and the things you've seen. Like that's one thing that I feel like there's a lot there to learn.
So you're definitely going to be tuning into Discovery on Sunday
For
night.
sure. Vicky's episode on Saturday on Discovery Plus.
Exactly. Hey, we should, people are thrilled for these. I know I am. Vicky, how about you? What's something that you want to learn from your fellow experts here?
So, yeah, I already knew the answer to that before it was a question on the prompt. But all the stuff that I've done, it doesn't have that, like face-to-face experience because I can't literally go where the deep sea sharks are. So from Joe, it would just be great to, and I should also say that when I was going to school and, getting degrees and stuff, it was all about animal behavior and you can read about it, but Joe's has done his human behavior and the animal behavior in real life together. And that's just something that I think is it's just really incredible that I would, like to learn more about. And then from Greg, it's maybe not the answer people would think, but when you're watching the Shark Week shows, what you're watching is like the best romanticized version. And when you're a scientist and at the end of the day, you have to come home and you have to analyze your data. You have to figure out what statistics you're going to use. You have to figure out what are the best collaborators that can help you produce the best answers and conclusions from your work. So it would just be great to kind of learn about how he's navigated that stuff, because I mean, just to get out there in the first place is awesome and tiring. And yet your job is only halfway done.
Because you have to bring all that back and figure out what you have there. How about you, Greg?
Well, I don't know anything about deep sea sharks really, and Vicky's got it dialed in. So I just would like to spend time chatting with her. And for both these guys, they got incredible shark stories, and if I could just spend time hearing their shark stories and having them tell me what they've learned. Joe and I hang out quite a bit. I've always said he's, a phenomenal cinematographer. He knows how to take images, bring them into our homes and really inspire us. So if I could just do a little bit of that and learn how Joe does that, that would be fantastic. But I'd love to just hang out with these guys. We should keep this going another hour so I can just hear more shark stories.
Well, that is what I have loved about this. So it pains me to say that is all the time we have for tonight. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who is here with us tonight for joining us. A big thank you to Dr. Greg Skomal, to Joe Romeiro, Vicky Vasquez for sharing your knowledge and your stories and just making it so much fun to be able to spend this time together talking about sharks. Don't forget to donate and watch Shark Week starting this Sunday, July 11th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch the early premiere streaming right now on Discovery Plus. And now, a special Shark Week sneak peek. Thanks for being with us, and good night.
Shark Week is back.
I don't know any researchers who have ever tried this before.
With the biggest discoveries.
This has to be a world first. A camera inside a shark's mouth.
The boldest science.
So we're inside her uterus. Unbelievable.
More people have walked on the moon than have seen this footage.
And the highest breach ever recorded.
It is a new world record.
Shark Week starts Sunday at 8 on Discovery. And stream even more science on Discovery Plus.